Hello and welcome to this rating vlog. This is episode 2 of my Since You Liked This, Read This book vlog series. In this, I ask 4 booktubers for recommendations based on a book they know I've liked to then read this. So it's a personalized, if you like this book, read this, which is like a big trend on Booktube. I loved doing this in episode 1. If you haven't seen episode 1, I will leave that linked down below for you to go check out. However, not necessary to watch before watching this episode. It's just 4 other booktubers giving me recommendations. There's no like attached thread between them. You just got 4 new booktubers in this one. I'm very excited for this one. In this video, I asked Kristin from Kristin Kraves Books, Riley from Riley Marie, Erin from Booked and Busy, and Jade from Jadey Rae Reads. So you'll have to keep watching to see what they picked for me, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, Kristin has sent me her video. I'm nervous. I have no idea what Kristin is giving me. Like, I have no clue at all, so I'm definitely nervous for this one, but I'm really excited for it.
Hey Cassidy, thank you so much for asking me to do this, but when I got your message, I was so nervous because I feel like recommending you a book is always a risk and is always nerve-wracking, and especially because I think where our reading taste aligns, it's usually me getting book recommendations from you. So this is a bit different, and it's extra scary because I'm recommending you one of my favorite books and something that I don't think is on your radar at all, but I think it makes sense for the whole concept of this video. So I know you love Fireborn. This is one of your best books of the year. I love the hype you have for this, and I also know that you like From Blood and Ash, which I haven't read, but I have heard about it everywhere. I'm familiar enough to know what that is about. So I think if you like both of those, you're gonna like This Vicious Grace by Emily Thied, and I know that this is probably not what you were expecting, but you have said that you like YA if it reads older like Fireborn does, and I think that this does that. And this also has that her touch can kill trope that I know is in From Blood and Ash, and it's a bodyguard romance, which I know is also in From Blood and Ash, but I think tonally this is very similar to Fireborn without the dragons and without the competition, which maybe you won't like that about it. But I know you're in your fantasy romance era. You have said that you like YA when it reads older, and I just think that this is going to be the book for you. And on the back it says 3 weddings, 3 funerals, 1 more chance to save them all. And I hope you love it, and if you hate it, it'll break my heart, but I can take it. So I can't wait to see your video. Thanks again for asking me, and here's hoping you love it.
I don't know anything about this book, I'm not gonna lie. I know nothing about it. I need to look this up right now. Maria gave it 4.5, and I'm normally pretty on par with Maria. Okay, this sounds good. I just read the synopsis. I think it sounds good. I hope I like it. I mean, Kristin's on par with bodyguard romance that I like. Like, that's definitely a buzzword for me. Touch her and kill her vibes, as well as like the tone of Fireborn. I really do love YA characters with a more adult theme to them, and so I'm hoping that's what we get here. And I am in my fantasy romance era. Comparing a book to Fireborn is scary because Fireborn was just so freaking good, but I'm excited for this. I'm not going to give you a synopsis here because current Cassidy does not know enough about this book besides like what I just read off Goodreads, but future Cassidy, as I'm reading this book, will give you a synopsis. Okay, I started This Vicious Grace last night. I actually got a decent way in. I'm on chapter 7. I'm doing the audiobook because it is available on Scribd. I already see the comparison to From Blood and Ash. I know it was like a secondary comparison that Kristin gave me, but it's definitely there. The setup, the like idea, the world building has a lot of similarities. We're following a main character who is the chosen one, and she's kind of separated from society. She's not really allowed to be like looked upon. She's not allowed to be touched. Things like that. So like definitely reminds you of the setup of From Blood and Ash, although I do feel like they're completely different stories, but like there are like those similarities of the two of them. I personally preferred the setup the way it was done in From Blood and Ash just because I felt like it really grabbed me. I was very intrigued in From Blood and Ash, and in this one I'm more confused than intrigued. I think that there's just a lot going on. We're following our main character who is like, I believe, the chosen one, and they're on this island, and every couple years, there's like a time frame that happens before like the monsters come to kill everyone, but the chosen one can take the power from like these other chosen ones and save the island from these evil beings. is kind of what I'm getting right now. But our main character thinks something's wrong with her because instead of like taking the power and borrowing the essence of these other chosen ones, she's killing them with her touch. And that's not supposed to happen. She's just supposed to like take their power and then bloom and be great. But that's so far all I know, and I'm still kind of like a little confused if that's like actually what's going on. But we did just have her meet, I think, what's going to be her love interest, who kind of believes in her a way that like no one else does already. Like the one moment is just like a really like snarky reply, and so I'm looking for good banter. I'm a little worried that this is going to be too close to From Blood and Ash for me, but we will see. I'm going in with open minds. I hope I really like it. So far it does read YA though, and we're just gonna see. We're gonna like keep going with it. I don't have a lot of thoughts other than that. I'm liking it. I'm intrigued. I feel like this made it sound like very pessimistic about my feelings, but I'm actually like really intrigued, and I liked the writing style. I believe it is Spanish inspired. I believe it's Spanish they're talking. I'm gonna be very embarrassed if it's not. And I kind of liked like that setup and thought it was interesting. I'm intrigued. That's all I'm going to say for now is I'm really intrigued. I should finish this one quite quickly. It reads pretty quickly and I have a decent amount of driving to do in the next couple days, so that'll make it fast for me. Hi. I have made it to 34% into this book and I'm honestly not loving it. I can't really tell you why. It feels just like a very meh book to me. Like there's nothing wrong with it. Like there's clearly nothing wrong with it. I've had this feeling twice in my life when reading a book where I was like, I understand that this is written pretty well and that it's a story I probably should like, but I'm just not connecting to the story at all. And that's kind of what I feel about this one. I do have a few questions. Like I know that there are things that are bothering me. Like I have a question about like why the creatures come and attack the island. And I mean, maybe that was answered earlier and I missed it, but I just want it to be repeated then if it's important knowledge. But I just like, why did they attack the island in the first place? Why are we in separate islands? Like why are there different islands? Why not just like bring your force together and have multiple of these like divine people to fend off the monsters? Why do these kids not get trained from like the beginning? Like why do like the magical kids that the chosen one needs, they're only trained when they're chosen by her? But like you really should be training them from the beginning. Why isn't she trained properly? Like if it's only, at first I thought her touch killed, unless it was like the perfect choice, but it sounds like she can take a little bit of the magic and train that way. So like why hasn't she been doing that for a really long time? Like I just have so many questions and like I don't feel like they've been answered for me and they're leaving a little bit of plot holes. But really it's the characters. I'm just not invested in these characters. I don't care about them. I can't sit here and say like they're not set up well because like I do have moments where I see like the setup of like what kind of character our chosen one, our main character is supposed to be, but I'm not connecting to it. It almost feels like very surface level to me and I don't buy their relationship. I don't understand why she just trusted this person, this random person, to be her guard. And like we find out later on he's been lying to her. Like why aren't you suspicious? I just like, I feel like there's issues here that aren't being talked about. It feels more surface level than I would like. I think for me, Fireborn just hit such a nuanced conversation on so many things, and that's what made it feel more adult to me. And at times I think this book is trying to do it, so I understand the comparison, but I just don't think it gets there. Like it doesn't dig deep enough into the conversations that I want. Like we do have a line about how you think you're God blessed, just to remember the rules that were written for you were not by the god, they were by mankind and men specifically, and nothing scares men more than a woman with more power than them. And so they lock them up. And I was just like, I loved that, but I wanted to dig deeper into that conversation and I feel like I'm missing it. I feel like this is going to be a 3-star for me. I just feel like it's going to be very average. I'm hoping it turns around. Our two like love interests do have some good banter, but again, I just like don't buy their relationship. I just feel like it was kind of like an instant trust and feels like an instant like romance almost to me. Like I would have liked to see more from them. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm sadly not loving this, but I do understand why Kristin recommended it to me. I really wish I was connecting more to it because I do think the base is there for like a decent story, and I think maybe if I connected to the characters a little bit more, I would like it more. I don't think it is like a 5-star for me in any way, but I wish it would get to a 4. So like I'm hopeful still. I have lunch. It is brie and prosciutto with honey and chili oil that was heated up and mixed together and like into like the grilled cheese, and it's just like a fancy grilled cheese. I had it for dinner last night and it was delicious. Well, for dinner I had it with bacon, but then I went to the grocery store today, so I got prosciutto for it. I love prosciutto. I'm gonna cut this in half and I'm gonna tell you about the ending of the book because I finished it. Sadly, and probably unsurprising because of the previous clips, I didn't love this one. Ooh, this looks gooey. Okay, the prosciutto does not want to cut. Look at how gooey that looks. Yum. Oh my lord. This is a mess. A disaster clip. Okay. What I didn't love about it is really that I could not connect to the characters at all. I just felt like they felt very surface level to me. But at the same time, I saw the author trying to give them more definition than that, but for some reason those parts weren't hitting for me. I do think I would like this book better if I hadn't read From Blood and Ash. So these two are, like, it is a very different book from Blood and Ash, but I think the, like, basis of having a chosen one who is away from society and is not to be seen or touched and isolated, and then having a guard come in and make them feel like maybe these rules aren't for her better. Maybe they aren't to help her. Like maybe they're useless. I just think From Blood and Ash did that 10 times better. Now, they're very different in terms of plot and concept, but at the same time they both have those like monsters outside of the wall. I think personally I had way more questions about that than I got in this book. I think that was one of my issues too. Like, I just didn't understand why they kept her alone, why they didn't train her, why they didn't train these other people, why these monsters even attacked. I just didn't understand the actual world building that happened in this one. And I think it's hard because you're always constantly comparing it to From Blood and Ash, where like that is all explained. The reason that she cannot be seen, cannot be touched, the reason that higher people in society make these decisions for her felt very real and well explained, but didn't feel well explained to me in this one. It just kind of felt like a plot device to make the story more interesting, so that I struggled with. I keep comparing it to From Blood and Ash. Kristin technically gave me this comparison for Fireborn, but I think From Blood and Ash is the better comparison. I know that she hasn't read From Blood and Ash though, so she couldn't give me that comparison. However, in terms of Fireborn, I see where she's coming from. I see that we have like a more adult YA, like we have an older YA, so we're sitting at like, I would say like 15 to 18 on this one, but for me Fireborn reads more like 15 to like 25. I think you literally could have just aged the characters up in Fireborn and you would have had an adult novel. This still feels very YA to me. It feels full of YA tropes and themes and discussions, so like I don't fully get the comparison, but I also know where she was trying to go with it. And if I had been the target demographic, if I had read this at 16 years old, I think I could have liked it a lot. I'm not the target demographic anymore, and it didn't have enough nuance for me that adult books have for what I'm looking for. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say. I just didn't believe a lot of things in here. I didn't believe the character dynamics. I feel like the friendships in the latter half come so quickly. Like, everything feels almost instantaneous. Like, yes, you see her work for it, but you don't really see her work slowly pay off. It just kind of feels like one second they're not friends and the next second they are friends. Same thing with the bodyguard for me. One second he's a stranger, the next second she's trusting him, he's in her bed. Things like that. Like, it just felt very like insta love in terms of any type of relationship for me. However, I know I don't like YA that much. I've been liking it more this year than I did last year. I think I've been picking up the right YA for myself. I'm just very picky with the themes and things I want in YA stories. I still like to read them, but I need them to be very particular, I think, for my taste. This didn't hit those for me. But I recommend this. Like, I don't think this was a bad book in any way. It just wasn't a book for me. If you prefer YA stories more than I do, pick this one up. If you haven't read From Blood and Ash yet, pick this one up. However, I do think like From Blood and Ash does a lot of this better, although there is like some interesting elements of this one that you don't get in From Blood. Like, they are very different stories. The just like basic setup is very similar, but very different stories. Anyways, thank you so much for giving me a book, Kristin. I'm so sad I didn't love it. I know it's like one of your favorite books of all time, so a little scared for you to watch this, but I think I understand the reasonings why you gave it to me. It just didn't work for me. Like, it just is a book that I just like emotionally could not connect to, but I think that if you emotionally connected to it, it would be a great book. It's kind of how I felt about Jade City and Sword of Kaigen too. Like, I understand why people love this story, you know? I don't know if that makes any sense. Thank you so much, though, Kristin. If you guys don't already subscribe to Kristin, you definitely should. I love Kristin's content. And yeah. Anyways, let's get on to the next book, and I'm going to eat my tasty sandwich that I ruined. Okay. This is so good. Hi, I'm not by my bookshelves, but I wanted to react to Riley's video. I'm really excited for this. I have no predictions for Riley, because obviously, like, when I asked Riley, I sent her my Goodreads to help her out a little bit because we don't have that much of a crossover at this moment in time, but I do try romance books and I'm like reading horror. So I'm expecting a romance and a horror from her, but I have no idea what. So I'm just like excited to find out. I would kind of like a dark romance. I think that's what I'm expecting, is some sort of dark romance, since she knows I like dark romance. Like maybe something compared to like one of the Sophie Larks. I'm just guessing, so let's watch.
Hey Cassidy, so I was fully prepared to come on here and recommend you a romance book. However, after looking at your Goodreads, I discovered the absolute criminal activity that is going on, and the fact that you have not read my all-time favorite fantasy author. So because—
Wait, she's giving me a fantasy? This is a loop. I did not see this coming. Oh god, I'm scared. I'm really scared. What have I not read? Like, I haven't read a lot of T. Kingfisher, so she could give me a T. Kingfisher, but I'm not a big T. Kingfisher fan. But I haven't tried any fantasy T. Kingfisher. Well, I did try Neville and Bone. I don't know. I'm scared. What is she gonna give me?
Because you loved The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, then I think you will like The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. There are a lot of differences between these two fantasy series, but I think at their core they share a lot of common themes. They both take place in very brutal, dark fantasy worlds. They're following very complex, layered, multi-dimensional characters who are very flawed and human. And also, like The Poppy War, the fifth season does follow a character who is actually going to a sort of magical boarding school to train. That is an aspect of the fifth season that I really loved. Both of these series really revolve around themes of power and corruption and the brutality that power then leads to. Listen, you just have to read N.K. Jemisin, okay? This is my favorite fantasy book ever, and I really think that because you liked The Poppy War so much, there's a good chance you will also like the fifth season.
Okay, there are some people who are gonna be very happy about this. I'm gonna go get the book. Whew, I'm out of breath just from going downstairs. This book is probably the TBR vets of all TBR vets. I've had this book for so long. It's been on so many want to read lists, so many TBRs, yet I still haven't read it. And you know what, maybe I was just saving it. Like, I just knew at one point I would need it for this video. I'm really excited to have Riley recommend this to me. I was not expecting it. It's like a kick in the butt that I needed to read this because I wanted to read it for so long and I've just been putting it off because I'm terrified of it. But also, I didn't know it had some sort of like academy setting, and I'm kind of excited about that. I will tell you more about this book later when I've read it a little bit and also when I've caught my breath from running up and down those stairs. I'm so out of shape. It's so embarrassing. Anyways, thanks, Riley. I'm really excited for this one. I'll see you guys in a bit.
Hi there, we're gonna get started for you today.
Hi, can I get a grande iced chai latte?
Yeah, for sure.
Can I get that with oat milk and only 2 pumps of chai?
Yeah, oat milk, only 2 pumps.
And then can I add 2 pumps of brown sugar syrup?
For sure.
And a shot of blonde espresso.
And then a shot of blonde espresso.
And that's everything.
Awesome. So that'll be 8:35. You'll see Margot up here in the window.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Your day so far?
It's good. How's yours?
Good. Busy, but
Busy makes it at least go faster.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, so I've never tried this before. I was just Googling. I've been like in the mood. I've been drinking Starbucks so much. I've been in the mood to like try things. So I just like Google secret menu things, and then I normally get them less sweet than like they say to. Like this is less sweet than they said to, and that's insane because this is so sweet. It's supposed to be like cookie butter, which we don't have here as far as I know. But so I don't know what cookie butter tastes like. But here I am. I'm gonna try this. Oh, it's kind of like gingerbread. I kind of like that. Okay, this is gonna fall though, so I'm gonna hold on to you while I turn. Oh my god, cars. Stop coming so I can turn. Okay. Hold on for dear life! I'm not even gonna go fast. I'm so dramatic. Anyways, we can end this here and I'll update you about the book when I'm at my sister's house. Okay, Randall. Can you... Oh my gosh, it's chaos over here. How does anyone ever get things done with animals? I made it to my sister's house after Starbucks. Update, I really like this. Delicious in my opinion. I will definitely be ordering it again. I started the 5th season though, and I'm not far in. I'm only like chapter 1. But I already had thoughts I wanted to share with you, as this is a story that I've been putting off for years. This is a true TBR vet for me. Beth has been screaming at me to read it. My sister has been screaming at me to read it, who's not as big of a fantasy fan as I am, but she loved this series. So she's been telling me to read it for a really long time, which is why I thought it was like a good idea to do an update at our house. I think the number one thing that was scaring me about this book was the you POV. There's a POV in the story that talks to you as if you're the character. You go wake up your daughter, you do this, you feel this. And it scared me. I was like, I'm gonna hate that. I'm gonna hate that, and I'm gonna come onto the internet and tell everyone that I hate this book. And although I do that constantly, I have unpopular opinions a lot, I still hate having them sometimes. Like sometimes I'm like, I just want to love a well-loved book. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. But guys, I really enjoy the UPOV. I've only had it once, so like maybe my mind will change. But at this point in time, it's just such a unique way of storytelling that it automatically grabbed my attention and made this book stand out to me from other books that I've read. And I think that's why it has hype. I think the way of telling the story is just very unique, and unique books do matter in a world of every book is a copy of another book in some way. Not like a true copy, but like nothing is original in our world anymore because everything has been done in some way and we're just kind of tweaking it to make it our version, to make it a little bit more unique. So I think having this style of writing really just like adds that component of like, this feels like someone's take on something classic. I am excited to keep reading. Also, I think it's fun to read books knowing the other series in the title, because obviously this is a backlist book. So in the prologue, we talk about the obelisks, and I feel like if I was reading this book and didn't know future titles, I would like be like, oh, whatever. But because I know one of the books is called The Obelisk Gate, I was like, what are we talking about? I'm listening. So yeah, anyways, I will update you in a bit. Another day. Another Starbucks drink to try. Something I really liked about the Poppy War was like the cruelty of the world to our main character. Like in the Poppy War, society is racist. Hey, there's a mouse going under that car. Is racist and cruel. It survived. There's racism and prejudice towards Rin, and Rin has to survive it all, and the world, the people in it are cruel to her. And I think that we're getting that also in the 5th season with our main character having prejudice because she is different and she has magic, and the world is like extremely cruel to her and looks down upon her. And I really like that addition in my stories because it often leads to a main character who's going to tell the world like, F off, I am just as good as you. So I'm excited for that. I really am enjoying that. I have Taylor Swift stuck in my head.
Good morning, welcome to Starbucks. My name's Marcus. What can I get started today?
Hi, can I get a grande cold brew?
Yeah, grande cold brew.
Can I get that with 2 pumps of white mocha?
2 pounds white mocha.
Can I add sweet cream and get 1 pump of cinnamon dolce in the foam?
Sweet cream and cinnamon caramel cocoa.
Yeah, that's everything.
Fantastic. Well, we'll have this over out the window.
Perfect, thank you. I feel like my order's wrong. But we'll try it anyways. I get Starbucks like every day I let Porter out, which is bad because I let Porter out like 2 times a week. In my lavender haze. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. Starbucks. 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 Starbucks we get. Starbucks we get. He's paying. I don't think I have anything else to tell you about the book. I'm liking it. I like the magic system. I like that there's like consequences to the magic, like at this moment in time. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day. I do think they messed it up a little bit, but not a lot. It's kind of sweet. I have nothing else to say to you, so goodbye.
Hello. Hello. Hello, you beautiful puppy. Oh, you are a pet stealer. Look.
Okay. Now that I can sit down and just like properly tell you my thoughts instead of just like awkwardly rambling in the Starbucks drive-thru, let's do that. I should probably tell you what this book is even about. I don't think I've done that. It's so hard. There's so many stories going around in the 5th season. I think the main point is that we follow a world where civilization is constantly being killed off. There's this thing called the 5th season that kills off a society that societies can't live through most of the time. So civilization is constantly dying off and having to regrow. It's kind of fun because there is like the idea of like leaving knowledge behind for the next civilization to make them grow a little bit better, because essentially like you grow a city and then it gets like knocked down to like nothing really quickly. So we're following this world and we're following what's gonna be the end of the world permanently, I think. From the beginning of the story, like the first chapter, you're kind of told like this is how the world ends for the last time, because obviously like the world continues to end and end in this story. And then we're following a UPOV that I think is looking for their child, but not like 100% certain. But then we're following another character who is like a young girl who has this magic ability. She has the magic of the earth, I believe, and untrained people with this magical ability kill people because when they reach out for their power, they have to take power from things around them. They're taking power from like the warmth of the world around them is what I've gotten. So she is sent off by her family, and her family literally is... Ugh, I hear Porter whining. Give me a second. I gotta let him in. He's probably trapped over there from the cat. The cat is sitting at the door and he won't go past the cat. Okay. We follow this girl and she's being taken away to like a magic school setting, I think, in order to learn her powers and her abilities so that she can, when she reaches for her magic, grab from the earth itself and not just like the people around her and kill people. But even so, even with the training, people with this power are looked down upon because they're kind of uncontrollable in some ways. Like you never know what's fully going to happen with them. There's a lot of prejudice around people with this magic and things like that. I'm excited to see what's gonna happen. I think our main character, like the young girl, is going to grow up and be like, F this society and system that puts me down, and I'm really excited about that, especially with Riley's comparison to the Poppy War. I'm really expecting that. We should go save Porter. So the cat is here. So the dog is here. And won't pass the cat. Okay.
Okay, I'm really close to the end here. I have about 100 pages left. I am on chapter 19 currently, and we just had a big reveal. Now, I'm pretty freaking proud of myself because I called this reveal very early on. I haven't exactly completed what I called, but like this part was 100%. Like I'm fairly certain. I was fairly certain, and I'm very proud of myself. I love when that happens. I've actually noticed more and more. I'm trying to get better at like telling people my thoughts. So like with the 5th season, I had known a bunch of people in my Patreon have read it. So in our bookish chat, I was putting my thoughts down as I read it. So pretty early on, probably 100 pages in, I just said like, here's my prediction for some like big reveal at the end of the book. And then I like spoiler tagged it so like only the people who had read 5th season would look at it. And I'm trying to be better at doing things like that. I'm trying to be better at like writing down when I have reveals, because I really liked doing it in the spoiler vlogs I've been making, and I've really enjoyed like seeing whether my predictions come true. But I've always kind of felt like, what if they don't come true and I just look stupid? But like, so what? So what I look stupid? Like, who cares? It's fun. We've gotten to this big reveal, and I do really like the reveal. I really like the reasoning for it, but I am having problems like connecting to the characters, and I do think that the characters are written in like a mysterious way that leaves you a little bit disconnected, but the world and stuff is so cool, and I 100% see the Poppy War resemblance. Like, I do think that these are good recommendations together for so many reasons. 1, school setting. 2, brutal world. 3, really cool magic system that like can overpower you. Like even the magic system in itself, I see resemblances of. Also non-Western settings. They're very unique and interesting worlds and all of that, but they also play with the power corrupting, all of that stuff. Like Riley has hit it spot on for like, and if you like this, read this, in my opinion. Like, I do think that these both have such good comparisons in them. Yeah, anyways, I have 100 pages left, so I'm gonna go read that so that I can update you. I just wanted to come on here and say, like, I'm so fucking smart because I guessed that reveal, and I feel like not a lot of people would have guessed it from the start, but I felt like it was very obvious to me. Like, I really quickly was like, I think that this has to be why it's done like this. And yeah, I feel on top of the world right now. See you guys soon. I finished it. And I really liked this one. As I said in the last clip, Riley, great comparison. Great comparison. Everything that Riley says in that initial clip about why these compare is correct. Like, I completely agree about the brutality, the MC, the magic system. I think the magic itself, with like the fact that you can kind of like lose control and like the way that you like grab your power kind of also reminds me of itself. A lot of the conversations that happen in this about like power and the corruption of power and government, chef's kiss reminds me of each other. 100% I am here for the if you like this, read this. If you like this, read this. I get it. I'm here for it. However, The Poppy War is one of my all-time favorite stories. 5 stars, literally like my favorite book of all time. And I wanted to give this one a 5-star, but I didn't. I couldn't. There's just something about it that doesn't feel like a 5-star read to me. I am giving it 4, a high 4-star. I cannot wait to continue. I'm excited to continue. However, I think because I guessed the reveal early on, the ending felt a little anticlimactic for me, and the plot itself felt a little anticlimactic for me, because this is a book where like the plot is essentially just like the setup to the reveal that you get at the end. And because I already knew the reveal so early on, I was just kind of waiting for my confirmation, and not like, I wanted there to be a little bit more of like a action plot, if that makes sense, like a thread leading everything together that wasn't just that reveal. And that's not what this is. Like, the reveal is like the plot, like the journey all 3 of these characters go on to get to the end. That is the plot. It's not a plot driven narrative per se, but I also struggled connecting to my characters. I felt at times like I wanted to know more about them. I understand why we don't learn more about them, but I wanted to know more. I wanted more in-depth background about the characters, and that made me like struggle to connect to all three. My favorite was the youngest character, unsurprisingly, the one in the school setting, the one that is questioning what is happening the most, the one that is kind of like, screw you, I'm better than this. I liked her. She was my favorite. I wish I had more of her POV. Overall, I just like really enjoyed this. I think the world building is really unique. I really enjoyed the world building. I think this almost reads like a prologue to me for the second book, and so I'm really excited for the second book. I think the second book will probably dive into more what I want, especially with like knowing the knowledge we have now. It's almost like when I read fantasy romance and I expect the first book to be like a naive character who doesn't really know much about like the Fey land, and then all of a sudden at the end of the book she's like, oh my god, the Fey land is real, and then the second book is where we get like so much more information. That's kind of what I'm expecting to happen in this book, where like I think this book is left to be such a mystery for you. It's supposed to be like leaving you intrigued and like wondering what's going on. I think in the second book we'll start to get more answers, and that I'm really excited about. Anyways, I really enjoyed this. This was a hit for me. I cannot wait to read the second book. My TBR doesn't really need more on it, but I need to get to it. I need to read it soon. I know a lot of people say that read like the second one quite soon after because it's not a lot of hand holding. They don't like walk you through a lot of the things that happened in the first book, which I'm okay with. I'm very happy with this comparison, like very, very, very happy. So thank you, Riley. I did not expect you to give me a fantasy book, and I honestly did not expect it to be such a hit, considering like I thought I was reading a horror for sure or a romance when I asked you to do this, and I'm so happy that you gave me the 5th season and that your love of the 5th season has finally pushed me to read this. It's incredible. Thank you so much, Riley. If you don't subscribe to Riley, you definitely should. I love Riley's channel. She is my go-to for romance and horror recommendations. Spend a lot of time watching Riley's content. I love Riley's content, the way she just discusses things, so definitely go subscribe to her. Although she doesn't really need a shout out from me, but you know, sometimes you just do the things. Anyways, I don't know what to do next. Like, do I just drop everything and pick up the second book? No. I'm gonna read the next Booktuber's recommendation for this. So let's swap on over and figure out what we're reading next. Okay, I have Erin's video. Erin, I think I know what she's gonna give me. I think I know, and I'm terrified, but I think it's gonna be Malazan. The Book of the Fallen, Gardens of the Moon. I think this is what she's gonna make me read. And I'm excited for it because, like, this is a story I want to try because it's, like, the epic of epics of fantasy, and people are like, you need, like, the Wikipedia to even know what's going on, and it just, like, sounds scary, but, like, I want the adrenaline high from the scariness of the intimidatingness. So I think that this is going to be what she picks me because I know she loves it. I'm like fairly confident. Fairly confident. And I'm terrified of it. Let's see. I'm scared. I don't know why I'm scared. I think I'm just scared to like actually have to read that book now. Like right now it's just sat on my TBR for like months being like, one day I'll get to you. But if she picks it for me, it's like here and now. In this moment in time, I need to start reading you. Scary.
Hi Cassidy, thank you for asking me to be a part of this If You Like This, Read This video. I immediately when you asked me, I knew exactly what book I was going to choose. So, you know, I just want to let you know if you don't like it, I'm going to have to bite you. So just, you know, keep that in mind when you're picking your book, when you're forming your opinions rather. So if you like The Serpent and the Wings of Night.
Wait. Wait. There's no way that she's comparing The Serpent and the Wings of Night to Malazan, which means I'm wrong. And someone needs to make me read this book. Somebody. Okay, so if I like The Serpent and the Wings of Night, what do I think it could be? I don't know what it could be.
I think you're gonna like Blood Mercy by Bella Roth. So let me tell you why.
I forgot that Erin loved that. I own it. I need to read this. So this is perfect. Okay, let's see why she thinks I'm gonna like it.
So while these two books don't have much in common as far as the characters and the plot are concerned, what I think you like most about The Serpent and the Wings of Night is that it is a very well developed fantasy world, a very well developed magic system, political intrigues with a significant amount of world building that just happens to have a romance in the story. And I also think that this is a fantasy world and a fantasy plot line that could exist, and the story would be mostly the same even if you didn't have the romance. And I feel like that is something that I really enjoyed about this. I would say this is an epic fantasy romance. Now, some would say that the first like 100 to 200 pages of this are pretty slow and dense and hard to get into. I personally didn't feel like that because I read the first 6 books that were out in the series in 6 days while I was working and doing regular things, and there aren't any audiobooks. So I personally found it very quick to read and very easy to sink myself into. But Blood Mercy is the first book in the Blood Grace series. Of this, I think 7 or 8 books are out right now, and I read the series right as the most recent book before the Blood Gift came out. And in this one we follow our main characters Cassia and Leo. Cassia is the bastard daughter of the king of Tenebra, and she knows that she exists at the will of her father. As long as she's useful, she continues to be alive, and she is currently scheming so that she can follow the court to this next destination, because every 100 years there's this solstice oath that's supposed to be renewed between the people of Tenebra and the Hesperines, which are these vampiric races. And another thing that these two have in common is that both of these vampire romances, fantasy romances, are patrons of this goddess of night. We have Nyaxia in here, and we have Hespera in here, but Hespera is a very different goddess than Nyaxia. And we follow her as she is trying to go with the court to have this first renewal of this oath in over 400 years, but she doesn't really trust her father's motivations, and we don't really know why she wants to meet a Hesperine, but she has motivations in herself that she wants to meet a Hesperine for reasons unknown to us at the beginning of the story. Our other main character, Leo, is an adolescent in this community, even though he's like 91 years old. And also, like, so the age gap in here isn't as crazy as the paranormal fantasy romance age gaps typically are. He's 90, she's 20, so not as significant. And we follow him as he is going on his first journey as an apprentice diplomat. And so he is trying to, you know, show the things that he's learned and experience what life is like outside of Orthros, which is their homeland, for the very first time. And Leo is not like Rain. He is actually a really soft, sweet, cinnamon roll type of character, but honestly the romance in here is so beautiful. The fantasy world is so well done. This is like medieval, so I'm giving you a lot, but this is my favorite fantasy romance series, so like I really feel passionately about it. But yeah, I think if you liked all those things in The Serpent and the Wings of Night, I think you will like Blood Mercy.
I didn't realize it was Erin's favorite fantasy romance, and that has me really excited. I think me and Erin are like on page for like wanting our fantasy romances to be fantasy with romance, not romance with fantasy. That has me very excited. The only thing that scares me is the cinnamon roll love interest. I typically like a lot of banter. I typically don't love a cinnamon roll character as much. I mean, I'm not a Fitz fan. If that tells you how much I don't like cinnamon roll characters, I'm not a Fitz fan. Which is just like blasphemy probably to a lot of you, but I said what I said. And so that kind of scares me, is the cinnamon roll character. I hope it's just like well done still, and like I feel their connection, and I'm just really excited about the world. I really didn't know a lot about what this book was about, so Erin really just told me a lot, and I'm kind of just digesting it. I'm really excited for this one. Oh my god. Hi. I am I don't know how to speak. I started Blood Mercy. I'm not far in. I'm on chapter 4, so like 30 pages in. I am not far in. I am doing the audiobook. I think I will audio and read along for most of it. And I just like, I'm here to tell you, like, what are words? I already am kind of obsessed. I know a lot of people say it takes like 200 pages to really get into things, that it's a slow start, that the writing is kind of lyrical, it has some weird writing. When I'm doing the audiobook, which I think will help with the lyrical, more historical romance style writing, but that's also something that doesn't bother me that much in books. I do like a good old historical romance, I think. But Two, for me, I went into this expecting high fantasy with romance, and I think that's where my expectations have been different from other people who go into this thinking just like fantasy romance, where like, I'm shook. I'm literally shook by the amount of world building that we have already gotten 30 pages in. That is what's making me fangirl so much, because I've always wanted a fantasy romance that felt like a fantasy, like a high epic fantasy, but also still feels like a romance the way that like fantasy romance feels like a romance. And I think this is it, because like this feels like extensive world building already. I'm 30 pages in and I feel like I'm learning so much about the world and politics and society and how that works, and how like the different societies act differently, the Vesperines and then like the mortals and like all of that. Like I just feel like we're getting so much good information already. I'm gonna keep reading. Thank you, Erin. I hope I continue being obsessed with this. I hope so. I'll see you guys in a bit. Okay, I started this book last night. I'm halfway through. I am with Erin that I was instantly attached. Instantaneously, I knew I liked this, which has led me to it's 4 p.m. the next day, and I'm on page I'm past page 200. I'm on page 300 out of 634, so I'm literally about halfway, and needless to say, I'm loving it. I love that our author is taking so much time to have our characters become friends, to like make them feel like it's a real relationship. Although there is like instant attraction, an instant intrigue into each other, it feels very real because it's like the first time they've ever seen someone of the other species or race, and so it feels really like normal that they'd be so curious about each other, that they'd be so fascinated by each other, and it just worked so well for me. I didn't think I would like a cinnamon roll character, but Leo is so freaking cute. I just want to hug him every time he says something. I'm just like, you're the cutest. Oh god. And Cassia is like this MC who the world has kind of crapped on her again and again and again and again, and she is smart. She is smart enough to know her place, but know that she doesn't belong in that place, and speak out against it at times, but not to like blow things out of proportion. Like, she's a very smart MC, and I really, really like that about her. I just really enjoy the world building. Like, I know people say this is a slow start, but I feel like I've just read 300 pages of world building and character interactions that I've lived for. There's been just like so much that has gone into this world, between the like lore of the vampires and like some of the things the humans have forgotten over decades, the king and his ruling and how he rules, the magic system, even like the simple thing of like Cassia having a namesake that the vampires remember, but like humans have looked past now and don't remember. And I really liked that you can see how society can change, and I like the conversations on like the humans have a very like old school classic historical setting where like women are bred to like be wives and have families, and because she's a bastard child of the king, Cassia has like she's not like a royal bloodline and people look down upon her, and there's like a very like old school feeling to the human society. But the Vesperine society is very different, and I really like the conversations that the Vesperines bring to the table on their outlook and how the human society is outdated. And you would think that the thousands and thousands and thousands of year old vampires would have the outdated society, not the humans, and I thought that was a very interesting switch about just how our brains work as humans and how we only think about like ourselves and like what we currently see and not like a very big time span. And I'm really, really, really enjoying this. I think it is literally so much fantasy, like so much fantasy groundwork has been put into this so far. The magic is really interesting to me, and I need to keep reading. Oh my god. I love them. They're so cute. I just finished Blood Mercy. Okay, we all know Erin has impeccable impeccable taste, but I kid you not, I just fangirled for 650 pages straight. These two are so stinking cute. I loved this. I had such a good time with this. So I 100% am like, if you liked this, you'll like this. I'm on board with the comparisons. We have a fantasy romance that is heavy on the fantasy. This one I think is more heavy on the romance than this one is. But I think also size-wise they both just have like a heavy fantasy potential. I think this sets up a lot more like political scheming and world building, where this has more of like a straightforward plot, if that makes sense. Like this is like more like the Hunger Games and this is more like Game of Thrones. But they both like have a very like heavy fantasy centric world to them. Like the author is not skipping on the fantasy part in either of those, as well as, I mean, they're both vampires and I have fully learned I am a vampire girly. Give me a blood drinking scene and I will probably be panting. Like panting. I just love a blood drinking scene. Both of these have good blood drinking scenes. They're both vampires. We have a goddess of the night. We have the female human, male vampire. We have a high fantasy world. We're set in a world not like our own. There is vampire politics as well as a little bit of like human politics happening. And I just really enjoyed this one. And I 100% am just on board for the recommendation that if you liked Serpent and the Wings of Night, pick up Blood Mercy. Blood Mercy is a lot slower of a story. It is historical fantasy, so a lot of people, as Erin talked about, complain about like the first 100 pages for sure, saying it's hard to get into. A lot of people complain about like the lyrical writing style. I personally didn't think it felt any different than most historical fantasy that I've read. It has a very more like proper way of talking, but that did not bother me. I actually did the audiobook and I adored the audiobook. I'm actually really sad that the next book doesn't have an audiobook out yet because I'm gonna have to physically read that one. I loved the audiobook so much. I loved my experience listening to the audiobook. I think that the narrators in that did amazing jobs at being both of our characters. I'm gonna talk about this book for like 10 minutes. Oh my god. I'm in love. In this story, we're following our two characters, as Erin said earlier, who are meeting at a summit where they're going over one of the old truces to like redo the truce in like the new... There's an alliance that's coming to an end and now they're meeting at a summit to redo this alliance and make the two races have a truce again and like discuss things and changes to their truce and things like that. We have the bastard daughter of the king who doesn't really belong in the court since she's the bastard child, but the king wants to keep her close and so she ends up at court and she does a lot of her own scheming and she really wants to meet a Vesperine and cue Leo. And we have Cassie and Leo who just as they get to know each other, they're learning a lot more about each other's races. Like they learn a lot more about human quirks and Vesperine quirks. We learn a lot of the world building done just by the two of them meeting and talking and discussing differences. And I really just loved the slow burn that is them. This is very much a star-crossed lovers, and I lived for it. In a million years did I think that if I picked up a book that wasn't enemies to lovers, I probably wasn't gonna like it, and this is not enemies to lovers. They're definitely just like star-crossed lovers, and I adored every single second. Cinnamon roll character. That's like my anti-buzzword. I don't like a cinnamon roll character. I will die for Leo. He is so freaking adorable. I am just in love with this. I do think it's slow. I was talking earlier about the writing style and I just went to ramble, oh god. Although a lot of people do complain about the writing style, I didn't have a problem with it. I was sucked in from the very beginning. Actually, I think I slumped around 400, which is where I think a lot of people don't slump. This is where it got a little bit romance heavy for me, and I wanted more of that political scheming and a plot, because I do think we're missing a overarching plot within this story. Because I'm not entirely sure where the plot is going in this series, I'm not gonna lie. But I did enjoy this story itself, but I just like would have wished we had seen more threads to an overarching plot, if that makes sense. There's a little bit of threads, like I think I know where it's going, but I kind of wish we had just done a little bit more. Other than that though, like I just had such a good time with this story. I'm giving it 4 stars. It did not reach a 5-star for me. I think there was just a little bit of pacing issues for me. However, I cannot wait to read the second book. I've also already designed a Patreon bookmark for this book because I'm obsessed. And I need to continue on this series. Thank you, Erin. Thank you so much for blessing me with Blood Mercy, because top tier fantasy romance in my opinion. Top tier. And yeah, so yeah, if you like The Serpent and the Wings of Night, pick up Blood Mercy. Anyways, thank you so much, Erin. I already said that, but if you guys are already not subscribed to Erin, you definitely should. Erin is one of my go-to channels. I watch pretty much every video Erin puts out. She reads a variety of different books, and I definitely think that you should check out her channel. Okay, I don't know what to do with my life now that I'm outside of Leo and Cassia. Jade has sent me her video, so let's go watch it. Jade told me that she is being completely predictable and that this won't shock me at all, but I don't have a lot of guesses. So because of that, I think it's going to be a Seb book, because if you know Jade, you know she loves Sebastian de Castell, and I haven't read the newest Seb book that has come out yet. So I think that's my prediction. Like, it has to be, right? It has to be.
Hello, Cassidy. It is I, your dear friend, Jadey Rae Reads. Thank you for asking me to do this, because let's be honest, this is just enabling me to push my agenda onto you. So whether these are comparable or not, questionable. But here we go. This is me we're talking about. So, because you liked Ruin of Kings, because Ruin of Kings is fantastic, I am going to recommend to you The Art of Prophecy. Honestly, The Sun, I'm sorry.
I should have seen this coming. I almost bought this at the bookstore the other day.
The Art of Prophecy by Wesley Chu. Now, I know you've seen me go on about this for a while, and my main comparison between these two is the completely wild assassin character. So we have Talon.
I did hear Jade comparing a character in The Art of Prophecy to Talon, and if you have been around, you know that I love Talon. Like, Talon is my favorite character in the Ruin of Kings series. I haven't finished the series yet, not gonna lie. But in the first 3 books, like, I obsess over Talon. Talon is hilarious. Talon is one of the best characters.
In this one, we have another slightly scramble-brained assassin in this one. I think they are comparable characters, so there's that. That's what I'm pitching this for, those characters. But also, they both involve prophecy. I know that you can sometimes be a bit iffy with prophecy, but you like Ruin of Kings, and there's a big prophecy in that, and I think the way that Art of Prophecy handles prophecy and how you can't just rely on a prophecy and you still have to like work for it, and it's not all just destiny is predefined and there's nothing you can do about it, which I know is something that you struggle with. I think there's a good chance that you could enjoy this and you like this, so hopefully you see them as comparable, and this is mainly me just pushing my agenda that everyone should read Art of Prophecy because it's really good. I hope you like it, and I know that this was probably the most predictable thing that I could have done, so you're welcome for that.
I did not predict that, but I should have 100% because she's been going off about it. Jade is completely right. Like, pre-Destiny, Destiny being like just a thing that just exists and happens is not really something I'm a fan of. However, like, a lot of fantasy has prophecy in it, and I like prophecy books. Let's look at Malice by John Gwynne. This is a Chosen One prophecy style story that I loved. As we said, Ruin of Kings. I'm looking at my shelf trying to find more. I'm sure there are more that I can't think of currently, but it is something that I'm okay with if it's done in a good way. It's just something that also I think can be done roughly for me. So like, why people know that I don't like it mostly is from Lycanius, and Lycanius is all about like fate. Like, the word Lycanius literally in that series means the Fate trilogy, and I think I just don't like your destiny being all decided for you from the time you were born and the choices that you make not mattering. So I'm still excited to read this. I still enjoy a prophecy book. It has to be done in a way that I like. which like every book has to be done in a way that I like in general. So I'm really excited for this. The character being an assassin and kind of like scatterbrained, I'm excited for. I'm definitely excited to try this one. I needed the push to read this, I think, so I'm excited. Thank you, Jade, so much. I won't tell you what the book is actually about until like later on when I'm reading it, so future Casty, take it away. Okay, I have started The Art of Prophecy. I think it's funny doing this book right after Erin's clip because I just was on Goodreads reading the synopsis over, and Erin DNF'd this book, but Jade loves it. And these are the two people that I think on Booktube I tend to have closer taste to, besides Mel. You know, Mel and me are like on par, but like these are two other channels that I go to for recommendations all the time because I tend to be on par with their taste. So I always think it's funny when one of them liked it and one of them didn't, and I'm always like, whose side am I gonna be on? Initial thoughts for Art of Prophecy. I do like the twist on the prophecy. In this story, we're following a prophesized child, a chosen one. He is going to defeat the big bad. He is the prophesized hero, but he is just a privileged little boy, raised and privileged, taught that he is the best because he is going to one day kill this person. He is set up for training in the first chapter, and the people that are attacking him aren't allowed to actually hurt him or wound him in any way, but he's allowed to murder them. So it just like continually sets up like this like privileged character, this privileged kid who is supposed to save the world, but how is he gonna save the world when he has no like real life training? And I do like that like twist on the chosen one prophecy. I think that one thing I've always struggled with chosen one stories is when the chosen one is just like automatically the best at everything they do. So I think I'm excited to see this really privileged child become the chosen one, and we follow an assassin character who is like the mentor and tries to train him, I think is what's about to go down. I'm intrigued. I'm liking it. I'm a little bit nervous about the humor. The first two chapters I really liked. Onto the third chapter and the humor was kind of annoying me in that one. Humor is not my biggest buzzword, but I do know Jade loves a humor-filled story. It can work for me, it cannot work for me. It just has to be done in a way that complements the story instead of taking over the story. I already see a comparison because the way it is written does remind me of the Chorus of Dragons series already, with like this witty humor style to it. And also, like, I feel like a twist on, like, Prophecy and The Chosen One has also kind of happened in both of those stories. So yeah, I'm excited to continue. I'll keep you updated. I'm just kind of working today. Nothing big. You should all be proud of me, and I made my own coffee at home today instead of getting Starbucks. I think I showed you 2 Starbucks runs in this, but I also Ubered Starbucks to my house twice within the making of this vlog, which was, like, 1 week long. So, yeah. I need to save money and make coffee at home. I'm pretty sure in the last clip I was telling you how proud I was that I made myself coffee. Then my sister called and delivered me Starbucks. So everyone is just enabling my Starbucks addiction. It's all good. However, I have not great news. I'm 52% into this book and I'm so bored. I'm sorry, Jade. I know this is a new favorite of yours and I understand why. It feels like a Jade book to me. It feels like the type of story I know you love. Let me find some examples. These are stories that when I think of Jade, this is what I think about. So like Traitor's Blade, The Rune of Kings, and The Shadow of What Was Lost. I think what these books have in common for me is a gimmick of some sort. In Traitor's Blade, it's the breaking of the fourth wall and the humor that the Greatcoats give to you. In The Name of All Things, there is humor as well, and it is, again, kind of a breaking of fourth wall, but more in terms of footnotes and a storyteller, and there's a lot of, like, twisting your thinking in this one. The Shadow of What Was Lost, it is time travel, and the gimmick of time travel within this that leads to the twisting of time and the twisting of fate and things like that. And I think in The Art of Prophecy, I'm seeing some of those things that I think are consistent with like a gimmick. One, there's the humor. There's a lot of humor, which is something I think Jade really likes that I'm not as big of a fan of. But two, we just have like the gimmick of the Chosen One. It's twisting the Chosen One on its head. There is the concept of like what really makes a Chosen One. And that itself is really cool, but I think something for me and why gimmick books don't always work is they need more substance than just the gimmick can give them. So if we talk about The Course of Dragons, because that is like what this Jade gave to me as a comparison, I see the comparison quite a bit. I loved the first and second book in the series. I enjoyed the third, but I actually am currently in the middle of the fourth and have been for 3-ish months because I was not loving it, and it just became so heavily on the gimmick and lost the substance to the story for me. And I am just not a reader that can be solely swayed by something like that. I don't know if that makes sense, but like I feel like I need a little bit more definition than some of these stories are giving me, specifically The Art of Prophecy. I just don't, I'm 50% in, and I don't know anything about our characters. I know that he's a privileged little boy who has never done anything for himself and is whiny, but that is such a surface level review of him. But that's all I know about him. And then I know our assassin is an assassin who is a little crazy and decided to just save this Chosen One for no reason. And that's all I know about her. I'm 50% into this book. I need more character definition than what I've gotten. I need more than just like the gimmick of the humor and the gimmick of the Chosen One, because we are discussing in a lot of layers what a Chosen One really is, how a Chosen One can come to be, that a Chosen One can be made instead of chosen. Like there is like the flipping of like the Chosen One trope, and I appreciate that, but I need more than just that. And I feel like this book is giving me just that in itself, and I'm just really struggling with that. I think the humor carries this book a long way, but as someone that humor doesn't really land for me unless I care about characters. For example, Traitor's Blade lands for me incredibly. I enjoyed the first book of this because I cared about the characters. I'm really struggling with this one, which I think was also a big struggle with me in Lycanius, because I just didn't think the characters had enough definition. I'm learning more and more that I am more of a character reader than I thought I was. So yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna try and finish this. Last time I updated you was only about an hour ago. I have sad news. I have decided to DNF this book. I'm just not loving it. I'm not vibing with it. I'm really bored. I don't really want to listen to it. It's just not working for me. However, I do understand the comparison completely. If you like the humor and the gimmick that is A Course of Dragons, pick up The Art of Prophecy. Like if you like a story that is a little bit more plot driven, not that A Course of Dragons is not plot driven per se, but it's also not like a character reader's. People who love the characters, but I don't think that the characters are necessarily like the most well-developed characters I've ever read, if that makes sense. Like they're no Realm of the Elderlings character-driven story. I do see the comparison. I do understand why, specifically I think if the later books in The Course of Dragons work for you, then try this. I think the first books have a lot more going on. I don't really know. I do see the comparison. It's just like a vibe you get from these two stories that like makes them so similar. So like I understand why Jade recommended it to me. It just feels too detached for me. I'm not invested. I want to be, but I'm not, and I just decided to DNF it. Anyways, thank you so much, Jade, for giving me a book recommendation. I'm sorry it didn't work out. I'm really sad it didn't work out. I was excited for this one. However, thank you so much. And if you aren't already subscribed to Jade, please go subscribe to Jade. Jade has such fun content. I love watching Jade just talk about books. There's something very engaging about watching her videos, I find. So definitely go check her out. And thank you to everyone else who participated in this. Let's swap on over to me in 5 seconds telling you about how this episode went. I personally think that this episode was a big success for me. This is the second episode of this series, and I definitely am planning to do more of them. I have a lot of fun doing them and just seeing like how the books compare. So far, I have not yet gotten a comparison that I don't agree with in some way, which I think is very interesting. Even if the book didn't work with me, I understand why people recommended it to me based on me liking that book, and I just like have had a lot of fun seeing that. It's kind of funny though, because I feel like in the first episode I had 2 that worked for me and 2 that didn't, and in this one again I had 2 that really worked for me, and then I had 2 that didn't really as much. But I wonder if that trend will continue into episode 3. If you would like to leave me people down below that you would like me to see do this with. The only thing is that they do have to somewhat know my reading taste a little bit, because they have to obviously have known books that I liked in order to give me a book recommendation. But let me know down below who you would love to see me ask for future installments of this. As I said, I've really enjoyed this new video series on my channel. And of course, I had 2 really big wins. I give both these books 4 stars and cannot wait to pick up the sequels. So thank you so much for following along and letting me gush about these 2 stories. If you haven't read them already, definitely pick them up if you're a fantasy romance fan. Blood Mercy. If you are a like high fantasy fan, the 5th season. You've already seen me ramble so much about my love for these, so very successful. Kristin did give me a YA fantasy that I didn't adore, but I still would highly recommend it to people. I didn't hate it. I think that it was a really well written book. So if you are more of a YA fan, definitely check out that book. And of course, Jade gave me The Art of Prophecy, which didn't go so well. However, if humor tends to land more with you, try that than it does with me. I don't know if that makes sense. Anyways, thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video. If you'd like to leave me an emoji just to say you were here, leave me a weather emoji for the 5th season. And then if you'd like to connect with me on other platforms, my Bookstagram, my Booktwitter, my Goodreads, and my Patreon, all linked in the description bar below. Have yourselves an absolutely remarkable day.